Welcome back, everybody. This is Bruce from Garbage or Great and the Epic Experiment, and we're back with another week. We're back with another deck tech. So last week I highlighted a pre-constructed deck that I had gone and updated, and I thought maybe tonight would be another good opportunity for us to go through another such deck that I have taken as a precon and updated it over the years with bits and pieces that I liked to give us a very different sort of thing than what was originally provided. So our commander tonight is Saheeli the Gifted. This is a Planeswalker for 2, a blue, and a red. You have a 4 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Saheeli. +1, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. +1, the next spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control as you cast it, so read affinity. And then -7, for each artifact you control, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. Alright, so Saheeli is kind of a fun and that particular year, they had a whole bunch of pre-constructed decks that had commanders that were exactly this. Multicolored planeswalkers as commanders, which is kind of neat. Now, not everybody likes them. I got the Saheeli deck. I think she's kind of interesting. I like the way the deck's built. Now, in the deck, you also had an alternate win condition, which is Brutaclad. Brutaclad, Telcure, Engineer, so 4 blue red for a 4/4 legendary creature artifact. Artificer. Creature tokens you control have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. So they play really well together. You can play them either way at one or the other. I've played them both. I like Saheeli better because I like the +1, the ability that gives me the affinity for artifacts. But there's defensible to play both as your commander. I have seen them both played. I have played them both as the commander myself, and they both are reasonable. I find Brutaclad is a little bit harder because of the fact that Brutaclad costs a little more mana, but that doesn't mean it's an impossibility to get it to work. Now, let's go through the deck and let's talk about how the deck is constructed and what it wants to do. So it's very heavily and very prominently a artifact deck. So you have lots of artifacts that are hidden in the deck, lots of artifacts that are going to provide you value and allow you to accrue a lot of additional resources that may not necessarily be obvious to anybody. So let's start down here with the ramp packages, because everybody loves to ramp, and you need to ramp. If you're not, you're going to struggle mightily. Well, first off, we have Sol Ring. There we go. Sol Ring's a standard. Comes in every pre-constructed deck. There's no reason to cut it. It is terrific. Izzet Signet. All right, so 2 mana, 1 and a tap, add a blue and a red. Perfect. Exactly the sort of thing this deck wants. You have a Hedron Archive. So 4 for an artifact. This is tap to add 2 colorless. 2 and a tap, sacrifice Hedron Archive, draw 2 cards. Okay, handy. We've got a Worn Power Stone. 3 for an artifact that comes into play tapped, and tap to add 2 colorless. All right, works for me. We have a Foundry Inspector. Oh, I missed Foundry Inspector. So this is 3 artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and it is a 3/2. We also have an Ethereum Sculptor, which is 1 and a blue for a 1/2 artifact creature, Vidalcan Artificer. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So they both help reduce the casting cost of your artifacts, which is exactly what you want. Then we have a Sol Talisman, which is kind of an interesting one. So this is going to be a spell that has Suspend for a single mana. You suspend it with 3 suspend counters, and then when it comes off suspend, it has tap to add 2 colors, kind of like a Sol Ring. Okay. We have an Inspiring Statuary. 3 for an artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise, meaning you can tap your artifacts to help pay their mana cost. So that means you can use your Thopter tokens or your Servo tokens that are created, or Mirror tokens to help cast spells. Okay, seems good to me. We have a Mind Stone. That one got stuck up in there in our hands. Next, we have Storm the Vault. So 2 blue and a red for a legendary enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of your mana pool to 1 color of any mana to your mana pool. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 5 or more artifacts, transform Storm the Vault. And what you really want to do is you want to transform it and turn it into this land Vault of Katlakan, which is tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or tap to add a blue to your mana pool for each artifact you control. So this is a Tolarian Academy that is on the back of an enchantment. It is, if you can flip it, it can be very, very potent. I have never actually flipped one of these cards, and I very much would like to. And then we also have Joyra, Ageless Innovator. So a red and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature, human artificer. Tap, put 2 ingenuity counters on Joyra, Ageless Innovator. Then you may put an artifact card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, where X is the number of ingenuity counters on Joyra. So if you can tap Joyra, then you're going to be able to maybe put things into play ahead of schedule, because you can accrue them faster than you would normally be able to. All right, so that's the ramp package. The ramp package is looking for us to make things that are going to create artifacts. So let's create artifacts. We have Saheeli's Artistry. So 4 blue, sorcery. Create a token as a copy of target artifact. Create a token as a copy of target creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. This is a really cool, really interesting ability, and you can do one or both as needed. We have a Mirrodin Besieged. So 2 and a blue for an enchantment. As Mirrodin Besieged enters the battlefield, choose Mirren or Phyrexian. If you choose Mirren, whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. Or Phyrexian, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card, then discard a card. Then if there are 15 or more artifact cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses the game. So the danger here is that everybody sees this and they want to see you pick Phyrexian, but I usually pick this for the mode where it gives me the tokens off the top. Inherently less likely to get you killed, so that's what I tend to do. We have a Sai, Master Thopterist. 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary creature, human artificer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 2 and a blue, sacrifice 2 artifacts, draw a card. Alright, so you have a card draw, you make some tokens. We have a Prototype Portal for an artifact with imprint. When Prototype Portal enters the battlefield, you may exile an artifact card from your hand. 4 and a tap, sacrifice a token that's a copy of the exiled card. Sorry, create a token that's a copy of the exiled card. X is the converted mana cost of that card. So you can use Prototype Portal to go and make copies of various artifacts. You have like a Sol Ring. If you made multiple copies of Sol Ring with Prototype Portal, you would be probably laughing all the way to the bank. Retrofitter Foundry. So 1 for an artifact, 3 mana, untap Retrofitter Foundry. 2 and a tap, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. 2 and a tap, sacrifice a servo, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Tap, sacrifice a Thopter, create a 4/4 colorless construct artifact creature token. So this is going to be a particularly useful card to just span the board with all sorts of things. And we got a neat trick to play with that. Mirror Works. So 5 for an artifact. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, create a token of a copy of that artifact. So again, second Sol Ring, second Hedron Archive, okay, second whatever, could be really potent. Loyal Apprentice. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human artificer with haste. And Lieutenant. So there's a couple of cards with Lieutenant abilities in the game. So this one triggers if you have your commander in play. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That token gains haste until end of turn. So it makes a Thopter token every turn. Yes, please. Thopter Engineer, 2 and a red. When it's a human artificer, it's a 1/3. When Thopter Engineer enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Artifact creatures you control have haste. This is really why we have it here. We want the haste ability for many of our other artifacts. Whirler Rogue, 2 blue for a 2/2 creature human rogue artificer. When Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter creature tokens with flying. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Okay. And then we have this land, Secluded Starforge. So this is a land from Edge of Eternities, and you can tap for a colorless. 2 and a tap X untapped artifacts you control. Target creature gets +X+O until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay. if I want to go and pump up a Thopter and make it a 5-1 or a 6-1, I could do that. Or 5 and a tap, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. I don't love the activated cost being 5, but the fact that this is a land that makes things, this is very, very handy. We've also got these other lands that are in the deck that are also play into our strategy. So we have a Silver Bluff Bridge. So this is an artifact land. Silver Bluff Bridge is the battlefield taps. It's indestructible. Taps to add a blue or a red. We have a Darksteel Citadel, which is an artifact land. It's indestructible. Tapped to add colorless. We have a Great Furnace and a Seat of the Synod, which are also artifact lands. They tap for a blue or a red, respectively. Last but not least, we have Buried Ruin, which is a land tapped to add a colorless. 2 and a tap, sacrifice Buried Ruin, return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. These lands are all very useful in this deck and are actually, some of the better cards in the list because they are artifacts or interact favorably with artifacts. All right, let's talk about some of the card draw. We need to draw cards. We need to get things, underway so we can draw cards. So we're going to start with this card here. Padim, Consul of Innovation. 3 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary creature, Vidalcan Artificer. Artifacts you control have hexproof, so that provides some really valuable protection. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control the artifact with the highest converted mana cost or tied for the highest converted mana cost, draw a card. Well, I'm going to have a number of rather large artifacts over here. I have a bunch of other artifacts that I've already cast. So Padim could be really good to help me draw a card. We want to draw cards, right? So we've got a Reverse Engineer. So this is 3 blue for a sorcery with Improvise, meaning artifacts you control, you can tap them to help reduce the casting cost. So he has a draw 3 cards. So 5 mana, draw 3 cards. And the fact that you can tap a couple of Thopters or Servos is pretty handy. Loyal Drake. This is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 with flying. It has a Lieutenant. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control your commander, draw a card. Okay, pretty handy. I like that. Thopter Spy Network. So 2 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Whenever one or more artifact creature tokens you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So again, we're drawing cards, keeping our hands full is exactly what you want to do. We have a Endless Atlas. So this is a 2 mana artifact, 2 and a tap, draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Well, if you own enough mountains or forests, you're going to be able to use this particular card. Sounds good to me. We have a Curiosity Crafter. So 3 and a blue for a 3/3 bird wizard with flying. You have no maximum hand size, and whenever a creature token you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So if a Servo or a Thopter or some other token deals damage to an opponent, you just get to draw cards and profit. Seems good. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain, 2 blue-red for a 3/3 legendary creature, human artificer. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. So historic spells are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are all historic creatures, historic cards. So you're going to be able to cast a bunch of Thopters and a bunch of artifacts and draw cards off them. We have an Emery, Lurker of the Loch, 2 and a blue for a 1/2 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. So you could potentially pay just a single blue mana for this. When Emery, Lurker of the Loch enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. Tap, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So you're going to be able to utilize anything that dies to go and be able to get recast by Emery. We have Weft Walking, 2 blue for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, if you cast it, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards. And then the first spell each player casts during each of their turns may be cast without paying its mana cost. This is a very risky card. It's one I'm willing to try. I have not had a lot of experience playing this one, but I want to try it out. And I figured this would be a pretty good place to play it. So the front half of it is like Echo of Eons or a wheel effect, a draw 7, where everyone's going to shuffle their graveyard and hand into their deck and then draw a fresh 7 cards. The danger I have run into with this deck is that I can find myself having run out of cards, so that's why I've put this sort of strategy in there. And then Mystic Forge, so 4 for an artifact. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card. Tap, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library. Okay, we're going to put that there for a second, okay? So, Mystic Forge is really good because you have lots of artifacts in the deck. You're going to be able to cast them off the top of your deck and generate some pretty good velocity. Let's talk about the creatures now that we have in the deck. So that the things we want to cast with said Mystic Forge and all that ramp. All right, so we got a Steel Overseer. Steel Overseer is great. So 2 mana for a 1/1 artifact creature construct. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature token you control. Artifact creature, yes please. Everything gets bigger. Nettle Cyst, 3 for an artifact equipment with living weapon, meaning it comes into play with a germ token. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control, and it equips for 2. So if you have a bunch of Thopters, this is going to get really big, and you can then use it to equip it and smash your opponents to pieces. Seems good. We have a Hulking Metamorph. Hulking Metamorph is a 9 mana 7/7, or it's got Prototype. All right, so for 2 blue for a 3/3. So you may have Hulking Metamorph enter the battlefield as a copy of an artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact creature in addition to its other types. And its power and toughness are equal to Hulking Metamorph's power and toughness. So I can play this as a 2 blue for a 3/3 and make a copy of my best artifact or enchantment. Artifact or creature. And if I want to pay the full 9 for it, which I don't usually do. This is usually 4 mana for the effect, but pretty neat. We have Traxos, Scourge of Krug. So 4 mana for a 7/7 legendary artifact creature construct with trample. Traxos Scourge of Krug enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you cast a historic spell, untap Traxos. Okay, seems good. We're going to put him there. Kappa Cannoneer. So 5 and a blue for a 4/4 artifact creature turtle warrior with improvise. Ward 4. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Kappa Cannoneer and it can't be blocked this turn. So you make a Thopter, Kappa Cannoneer gets bigger. You make a Servo, it gets bigger. And very quickly, it's a 6/6, 8/8, 10/10, and bashing your opponents in the face. Hellkiting Niter, so 5 red for a 5/5 legendary creature dragon with flying and haste. 1 and a red, Hellkiting Niter gets +1/+X/O until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control. So this is a very expensive dragon. It is very big. 7 mana is an awful chunk to pay. But I like the fact that it's got haste, and it has got this kind of funky fire breathing effect that you can activate multiple times. So if you pay it one, let's say if you have 3 artifacts on the battlefield, you can pay 1 in a red, and it gets +3/+0. You can pay it a second time, and now it's getting +6/+0. And if you pay it a third time, and you get +9/+0, and you're probably killing somebody dead. We've got Ancient Stone Idol, so 10 mana for a 12/12 artifact creature golem with flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature. Trample. When Ancient Stone Idol dies, create a 6/12 colorless construct artifact creature token with trample. So you're going to get a big old thing. If you can find a way to do it, attack with a bunch of smallish Thopters, flash it in, you're going to be okay. Soul of New Phyrexia, 6 mana for a 6/6 artifact creature avatar with trample. 5 permanents you control gain indestructible to end of turn. 5 exile Soul of New Phyrexia from your graveyard. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. This is a little bit of wrath protection in the list. Not a lot, but it's a little bit. We have Bosch Iron Golem, so 8 mana for a 6/7 legendary artifact creature golem with trample. 4 and a red, sacrifice an artifact. Bosch Iron Golem deals damage equal to the sacrifice artifact's convert a mana cost to any target. So this is really in here, so you can take, like, maybe not that one, but it's the Ancient Stone Idol, and you can fling it at your opponent and deal 12 points of damage to them, which seems like a really prodigious way to kill somebody and why Prosh is so powerful. You have a Sharding Sphinx, 4 blue for a 4/4 artifact creature Sphinx with flying. Whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying. So this being on the battlefield and you connect with a Thopter or a Servo or whatever means you get more of them, which is kind of exactly what you want to do. We have a Steel Hellkite, 6 for a 5/5 artifact creature dragon with flying. 2, Steel Hellkite deals +1/+0 till end of turn. X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X, whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. I'm going to be honest, this is a card that I've often scoffed at, but if you can connect and you can dome your opponent with it, it's pretty powerful. You could blow up a pretty good chunk of their board without much difficulty. We have Mirror Battlesphere. So 7 for a 4/7 artifact creature mirror construct. When Mirror Battlesphere enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens. And then whenever Mirror Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X, untap mirrors you control. If you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets +X/+O until end of turn and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And with Brutaclad making more mirror tokens, and more copies of Mirror Battlesphere, because this is non-legendary, there's so many things that copy this is pretty amazing. You get a lot of value out of it. Psychosis Crawler. So 5 for a star artifact creature horror. Psychosis Crawler's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So this is to punish decks. It's not as effective in this deck as I have in some other decks, but it's still, a pretty useful role player. It's an artifact at the same time. And then we have Memnon the Right Hand. So 3 blue for a 3/4 legendary creature, Jellyfish Advisor with flying. You look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells in the top of your library. Artifacts you control have tap, add blue. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. Okay, I don't know how that last clause is working, but the fact I can cast things from my top of my deck again seems good. All right. Let's talk about the interaction package that we've got. We don't have a ton of interaction, but we may as well get to it. So we have a Counterflux. So blue, red, instant. Counterflux can't be targeted by spells or abilities. Can't be countered by. Counter target spell you don't control, and you can overload it for 1 blue, red, meaning each spell gets countered. Cool. We have a counter spell, also handy. We have an Aether Gale. So 3 blue for a sorcery. Return 6 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Notice it doesn't say creatures. Frequently, it'll be what you return creatures to your opponent's hands, but, you don't have to their owner's hands. Sorry. We have a Sword of Sinew and Steel, which feels kind of silly, but 3 for an artifact with equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and red. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target planeswalker and up to 1 target artifact, and equips for 2. So this is what you put on a Thopter, and you get it in, and you start blowing up their Sol Rings, or their Arcane Signets, or their other valuable artifacts that need to die. We have a Blasphemous Act, so 8 and a red for a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to target creature. I like this with the Soul of New Phyrexia, where if you cast this, because there's so many creatures on the board, you pay a single red, and then activate for Soul of New Phyrexia, so huge creatures don't die, and your opponents do. We have a Chaos Warp, so 2 and a red for instant, and this is to the owner of target permanent shuffles it into the library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. It's kind of a staple in red. And then we have a Vandal Blast, single red, destroy target artifact you don't control, an overload 4 and a red, and you do it to each artifact you don't control. They all get blowed up and they all die. Okay, we've got 2 last piles of things that we want to talk about. So we've got some value pieces. So we got like for instance, Swiftfoot Boots. Doesn't really fit in the categories, but just a useful card generically. Also, Saheeli doesn't really need it, but lots of your other artifacts benefit from haste, making it particularly good. We have Unwinding Clock, which is in this list as well. 4 for an artifact. Untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step. So that means the lands, that means all the creatures, that means all the tokens, that means all the things. You are untapping lots. Like, this is your Seedborn Muse. This thing is silly. All right? And it's probably the best card in the deck. So I am a big fan of Unwinding Clock. Then we have an Inventor's Fair. Inventor's Fair says, the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. Tap to add colors to your mana pool. 4, tap, sacrifice Inventor's Fair, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. So the fact this can be a tutor on a land to go get your key artifact, yes please. We have a Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon, if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So this is really, like, there's some interesting abilities in the deck that you can double the effects. The Mere Battlesphere making twice the number of tokens is probably the biggest one you can do, but you never know. We have a Darksteel Forge. So 9 for a artifact. Artifacts you control have indestructible. So that means all your things, Thopters, servos, all your stuff just can't be killed. They can be exiled and they can be bounced, but they just can't die. And then a Clock of Omens. So Clock of Omens is 4 with artifact. Tap 2 untap artifacts you control. Untap target artifact. So I like this for things like being able to untap Traxos without being able having to cast something. Or I can untap the Mystic Forge to activate it a second time to clear, lands on the top of my deck. There's other things that have, interesting ability that you would like them to untap. Let me just see what they've got here. There's a bunch of them. I know there are. I just got to find them. So Steel Overseer is another one. You could go and make use of that to tap it and then untap it. Draw cards with Endless Atlas, which is not ideal because it's kept by the mana, but you get the sense. There's some things that you can target with their Clock of Omens that I'm looking to utilize and abuse. Last but not least, we have some new stuff that I want to talk about. So I have Dawn and Wrath Hard Evidence. So this is one of the Ninja Turtles. So one is it for a 2/4 legendary creature mutant Ninja Turtle with Menace. When Dawn and Wrath attack, the next non-creature spell you cast this turn has affinity for artifacts. Well, the whole premise of the deck is to put artifacts into play, meaning this could be huge, making you a ton of mana. And how does that work to your advantage? You want to cast big spells. So Transcendent Message, Saheeli's Directive, and Magma Quake are some of the biggest X spells we're going to put in this list. None of them are particularly expensive. You could put Comet Storm in here if you wanted. You could go and put all sorts of crazy things in here. But these are the ones I've elected to go put in the deck to go and, make use of the mana that can be created by Saheeli with her +1 here, the middle one, and Dawn and Wrath, which is like a very similar ability, suggesting that realistically what I should be doing is playing them in conjunction with each other. All right, so that's the list. You want to check out the list? Please go check it out down below in the show notes. It is a pretty fun deck. It's an updated precon. I don't think there are any game changers in the list, but you obviously can see there's a lot of adaptations that I have made to this particular list to try and make it more synergistic without upping the value of the deck dramatically, because I don't really want to sink hundreds and hundreds of dollars into a pre-constructed deck. I have enjoyed this one when I've played it. It usually fares quite well against other precons. It struggles increasingly because the modern precons more recently have a much higher power level than this would have been able to produce, but you can still do some good things and win. And I've had some really memorable wins with it, and with some really interesting lines of play that are not necessarily intuitive unless you played it a bunch of times. All right, that's the idea. That's the list, folks. Check it out. Go check out all of our other lists on Moxfield as well. Any deck that I've highlighted here on the channel is there available for you to find. Additionally, you can go find our link to social media, and you can go find the link to the podcast down in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us build the channel here and grow the community. We're doing pretty well. We've had quite a number of new people hop on board. We'd love to have some more. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. That's it. That's all from me here at Garbage or Great and the Epic Experiment. And wishing you all a good night. Talk to you later. Peace.